Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Now, we've done videos on this before, but the difference here is the context. The video before on skipping breakfast was actually to do with fat loss. And we do know that fat loss is definitely benefited in a lot of people by skipping breakfast. We've seen this in previous studies. But in this particular video, we're going to look at what the benefit or negative would be on skipping breakfast for an athlete and their performance, and to see if it is actually a good idea in that context, because obviously energy is going to fuel their evening performance. And you would assume if the calories were the same throughout the day, then it would make no difference. The glycogen stores would still be up, energy levels would be the same, performance would be the same. But is this actually true? And did they find this in this particular study that we're going to look at here today? So they got 11 trained cyclists. They had two groups, one group who skipped breakfast, the other group who didn't skip breakfast. They equated their calories, so they had the same calories, more at lunch in the breakfast skipping group just to get the calories to the same level. And they performed their time trial, which was a 20-kilometer cycle in the evening. And they were looking at basically performance variables to see if the skipping breakfast group versus the having breakfast group, there was any benefit or negative on actually skipping breakfast or having breakfast. So they measured performance, which was obviously their time trial time. They measured blood glucose levels. They measured blood lactate concentration, mean power output, and the perception of effort as well. So how hard they thought that the time trial was. So what did they find? So they found in the group that actually ate breakfast, their perception of effort was lower, their blood lactate level and their blood glucose level was similar, and I said this at the beginning, there's no reason to suggest why that would be different. The breakfast eater group also had a higher mean wattage, mean power output, even though their perception of effort was different, even though they were actually working technically harder, their perception of effort was lower than the skipping breakfast group. So in the breakfast eater group, the wattage, the average wattage, mean power output was 294 watts. And in the breakfast skipper group, it was 285 watts. And finally, performance. The breakfast skipper group were 38 seconds on average slower on their 20k cycle ride. So this shows that skipping breakfast, if you want to lose fat for health reasons in that regard, it's probably a good idea. This study concludes though, if you're an athlete and you're looking for peak performance, even though you're training in the evening, which is quite a distance away from the morning, skipping breakfast isn't the best idea, even if the calories are the same throughout the course of that day. So if you're an athlete, you should definitely not skip breakfast, according to this study anyway. And certainly it's something which is going to negatively impact your training, your perception of training, which obviously is psychological as well. Now, there may well be other things that you can do to offset this. So say, for example, you're training for something that has a weight classification, you need to drop calories. So you could use the skipping breakfast potentially as an option there, but you would then have to do something maybe to give you a boost of energy to perform later on, whether that be, say, caffeine or some pre-workout or something else. But certainly it's not the most optimal way of doing things, but it depends on your scenario. Anyway, that was an interesting study on breakfast. So skipping breakfast for an athlete is not necessarily advisable according to this study. So yeah, get your breakfast in for this reason. If you want to lose weight though, maybe it's an option. Anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.